Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Crypto Economy Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Calabian, and today we're going to be talking about Bitcoin mining with one of my good buddies, Ash, who I met a few years ago and who I've sort of followed along with his Bitcoin mining journey. So, figured it'd be a good time to invite him on so he can tell you a little bit about the industry and get you caught up on how things work from that end. So, without further ado, Ash, if you could introduce yourself, that would be great.
Super cool, Mark. Happy to be on your podcast. This is the first for me, so if I lag and you hear and
No,
excuse me
just
for that.
whatever goes.
But thanks for having me out. Super happy to talk to you. So my name is Ash. Academically speaking, I'm a dentist. I practice in the state of Florida. Um, Talking about Bitcoin mining goes back to 2017. So young entrepreneur, I hear that we could kind of print money by plugging in a couple of computers and graphic cards. So that's where the research starts. We get super into it. My best friend and I, at the time we were three good friends. It was beginning of the summer. One of our friends was in the banking industry, so go ahead and learn about these cryptocurrencies, do a little bit of digging, got into Ethereum mining. Uh, Stepped out for a couple of years, participated in retail sales for GPU, and then a few years ago, we started a company called Monbank with two of my other partners. Company which isn't fully operational at the moment, but we had multiple mines set up in different jurisdictions. So I participated in helping all of that happen with obviously some other more technical people than I am. With the help of professionals, we did a lot of networking. We were able to serve Canadian public companies, some institutional investors, and we set up shop in the state of Texas, in Paraguay, in Latin America, and also in Montreal, Quebec, where I'm from. So yeah, that's it. I've been in the industry. I've been happy to meet so many people in the past 4 years. So many people devoted to, securing the Bitcoin network, whether it's the Bitcoin network or the Ethereum network, actually, so many different networks to secure. But yeah.
There are. I mean, that's awesome. I love that you came from a background, you're in dental school and you just kind of get bit by the bug and before you know it, you're, wheeling and dealing for public companies and, selling all sorts of services on top. I think it's crazy how fast you can get, up to speed on this stuff and how quickly you can become, a leader in the industry and someone people are looking to for advice. Um, it was
Sure, I
was
was
it
just
hard?
gonna add.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
go ahead. No, I was just gonna add how I don't know if your question was leading up to that. I was just gonna say it's an industry that moves fast, but then again, everyone is so friendly and it's kind of, you know how you say crypto bros. Well, it's actually
Yep.
really crypto bros. Like everyone's trying to help each other out. There's mutual, understanding and everybody wants to, have some, obviously there's the financial incentives, but there's also the bigger picture, which every Bitcoin or every cryptocurrency believer in a certain way wants to, imagine a future with the technology adapted by everyone. So that's why everyone just once you get into it, it's tough to get out of it. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, it is. And people don't leave unless they have to. And, people that show up in the bull markets from Google end up going back to Google. So it all balances out at the end of the day. So when you were,
Exactly.
getting like up to speed on this stuff, how did you even take the first steps into acquiring your first piece of land? What were the things you had to think about and the considerations and, what is the game and how did you get up to speed on what the game was?
Well, obviously in the beginning, when we started off, when we were a little younger, and we were more focused on Ethereum mining because, well, I can say that the access to GPUs was a little easier, which was not. We literally had to drive in every single computer hardware store in the province in Quebec and Ontario. to get, at first we were mining with RXs, and then we had the 1080 Ti's and all the NVIDIA cards that, you might have heard that were used to build rigs. We started off like that, and big ups to my best friend Sergio, who was also the COO at Montbank, and he's a crypto mining guru actually. So he got really into it at some point, and I had to pull back and go back to school. But obviously, always try to keep connected and up to date. When we talk about acquiring land and kind of scaling the business, uh, at first you have to understand a lot of people think it's three factors: buying miners, having the electricity to plug that, and obviously the price of Bitcoin, which you have no control over. But then again, there's just so many different factors. Like if I were to bullet point them, you can have like acquiring the Bitcoin mining hardware itself, which includes like the computer and all the other equipment that, for example, for Bitcoin mining, it was a little easier than Ethereum mining because you have the ASIC hardwares. If your audience doesn't know, the ASIC is like the application specific integrated circuit, and those type of graphic cards, which obviously there's a big monopoly with Chinese manufacturers, and getting to that, well, there's all the risks of cross-border payment and logistics, and then time becomes an issue, and then obviously electricity is another big point where uh, some might say it's a resource intensive, which it is, process to mine Bitcoin, and it requires a significant amount of electricity to power the hardware. So you have to find the right jurisdictions that have a proper regulatory environment, because anyone that wants to get into mining, they need to be aware and kind of comply with the applicable laws in their areas, the regulations that are related to Bitcoin mining, because they could be different, right? And crypto mining equipment can also be subject to a variety of taxes, which include, like, let's say, income tax, or like value added tax, or customs and duties, which are the biggest. Uh, that's one of the biggest points when it comes to taxation. And then cooling, which is a big factor in choosing where you're going to be mining. Obviously, we're lucky enough here in Quebec to have, cool temperatures almost 7 to 8 months a year. And then that saves a lot on having to cool the miners, whether it's done artificially, or you have an open air miner with filters. Mine, sorry, I didn't mean to say miner. And then the location, it's really, I think you run after the cost of electricity, the availability of other resources, like where you can mine. Obviously, you want to have, the right employees, professionals that you can hire that would be available to work on site, because unfortunately, slowly, we're seeing a lot of like um, remote, control of your operations, but you really need to be on top of things, and obviously there's the maintenance of the hardware and the market conditions, which obviously have like the price of Bitcoin. And one big thing people forget about is like the difficulty, which is how hard it is to solve those puzzles with your processors, right? To be able to, you know, have a
Yeah.
Bitcoin minted for your work, which is proof of work. So choosing land really came down, for our own sake, came down to networking, finding the right people that, you know, had, like, at first when we started mining Ethereum, for example, we're making retail sales, it's not really popular, and we're selling to people that really don't understand what Bitcoin is, or what Ethereum is, or what mining is. And then you tell them, hey bud, like you pay me X amount of electricity a month and for hosting, and you're collecting some type of I don't know, cryptocurrency. They're like, okay, what is that? You have to sit down and explain it to them. And obviously at first our investors are a little older, right? So above, like, let's say greater than 30 years of age. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
those are the guys that have a lot of money. So at first, finding the land and jurisdiction, like we didn't really need to scale that big. But when we started speaking about scaling, there's two ways of doing it. Either you find a place that already exists that wants to scale but doesn't have the right investors or the interest or the time, and you try to, merge with them or try to get a business started with someone that already has, at least 1 foot into the business. If not, then you follow the kind of follow the hype and try to be the first one there, right? So for us, for example, we discovered the state of Texas because, it's the land of, energy and gas. All those boys, I think it was during Bitcoin 2022, a lot of those guys came down to Miami, and that's where we met a lot of people. And they were, talking about all these lands that were available in Texas with these PPAs, PPA being like the power contract. So there's like fixed PPAs where you have a fixed price for a long time. It could be 10 years, 25 years. And then there's like the floating PPAs, right? Which are a bit more dangerous. A lot of people fell under the bus with that this year. And yeah, like we went there, we met a lot of great people that were, open and interested to understand what this new technology is, how it can help the local grid. Uh, you know, so that's one of the that's one of the things that pushed us to go to Texas. It was just the community building there, and
Yeah.
everyone's ready to help each other. And yeah, that's one thing. And then all those points I mentioned, just it's not like it doesn't happen in one day, that's for sure. Like there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of thinking, a lot of moving pieces.
So how many, was it different in say like Texas versus Paraguay as far as like how many people you needed to set it up or, the costs associated and
Yeah.
stuff like that?
Well, yeah, once again, like yes, I'm sure it would be easier to set up a mine in Dallas because right now, first of all, no language barrier.
Hmm.
Second of all, obviously, um, when you speak about state security, I think you're more inclined to, set up shop in the US.
Yep.
And then speed of execution, I don't think, I mean, yeah, I've seen Chinese people on YouTube build a bridge overnight. Like I've seen those stuff. But like, Americans work well, they're super hardworking, and especially like that in the south of the US, you have like Southern hospitality, which is something that, has pushed me to go and, work in the States, especially in the South. And everyone's so honest and kind and ready to work. So they're hard workers. Now you go to Paraguay. Obviously, I don't know if you knew this, but um, Paraguay is, you know, a state that produces a lot of clean energy, a country that produces a lot of energy because they
I
have
didn't
like
know that. Is it
they have
geothermal?
multiple. No, mostly hydro. So
Oh,
basically,
okay.
they have the Itaipu Dam. They have like two other dams. I forget the name. I think one of them is like Akarai or something. So they contribute to like the. Sorry, that's I don't know. Do you hear my dog barking in the background?
A little bit, but you're all good.
I I can't hide that. There's someone coming in. He has to bark. There's no way.
You're
Sorry about
good.
that. So yeah, like Paraguay is so basically that country's electricity consumption per capita is one of the lowest in the world. Okay, and at the same time, their transmission and distribution has like one of the highest losses in Latin America. So they have like these hydroelectric power plants that are co-owned, let's say like don't quote me, but I think it's 50% by Argentina or Brazil. And like yet despite that, like I think it's more than half of their total electricity produced goes to those two countries. So they have a lot of lost electricity, and the jurisdiction you've heard about, like that's not the safest place in the world to operate, right? But yet then you have these miners, which I was surprised. It was so crazy, man. Like you go to the other end of the world, which is like Argentina, Brazil, Paraguayan, you're thinking to yourself, okay, no way there's like I'm ever gonna meet random miners around here. And then you spend one day, and it's a small town. People talk, businessmen talk. And then you have people like you go out to eat and get introduced to someone. Hey, you guys are the guys from Canada down here for mining. You're like, oh, how did you know? You know what I mean? So
That's all.
kind of trying to pass under like the radar and do things low key is a bit more difficult in that jurisdiction. So that's why like the US is a great place to mine for now. Like I actually North America in general. You have like some amazing projects out there with the guys that are like using offset methane gas. You have like all the other guys that are trying to, secure the grid in Texas and, help with local
So how
uh,
does Bitcoin mining help secure the grid? For people talking about this, what's the methodology there?
Okay, well, listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. It's gonna be difficult for me to vulgarize that information.
No worries.
And also, like, look, let's say you have a city, okay, that has 10,000 people living there, 10,000 homes. Like let's look at it in like you have like 100 million light bulbs, okay? Like the electricity that's provided and the power contracts that exist for that area, well, they depend on, the retail consumers. Some of them, like just like big contracts, they have a fixed rate and a variable rate, right? So when the rate when the rate is variable and you have like a black swan event like that of I think it was like 2 years ago, 3 years ago when there was snow in Texas and just screwed everything up. Yeah, at moments like time, at moments like that, the traditional grid was lacking in stability and actual power at moments, right? It could be from like physical damage to the transmission lines to just having too much of a heavy load. I'm not sure, but I think even high heat and hot weather can bother those like is a factor that impacts things negatively. So when Bitcoin miners come in, they can do a couple of things from an electricity perspective. They come in, first of all, if they're not in a commercial zone, right? Or even if they're in a commercial zone but close to a residential area, where these guys are basically paying big bucks to bring power to that area, right? And what they're able to do is at times where the grid, which is supplying the people in that nearby city, is down, where well they're able to provide some of the electricity, and that's like included in some of the power contracts, right? So that's one thing. Second thing miners do is obviously you have all these energy industries that they produce a large quantity of power, and a lot of that power is lost without being used. So you're here and you have like people complaining about power consumption and how power intensive like Bitcoin mining is, but they don't see the value that it can bring to the table. Okay, we won't look at Bitcoin now. Obviously, it's like $16,000 or around that. Okay, let's be $16,800 to be fair to everyone out there. Like at these prices, obviously, it's a bear vibe. Like everyone's just you hear negative things all over the place. But then again, like Bitcoin's able to provide uh, an opportunity to basically monetize lost energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
Once,
awesome when you put it like that.
yeah, like it's just Simple. You know what I mean? What are they gonna do with that lost power? Anyways, it's gonna go. Right? It's lost. It's gone forever. You're you're able to take like a local jurisdiction and tell them, hey, look, like we want to develop the power infrastructure in this area. Yeah, we're going to be mining 24/7, but we're able to turn off our miners whenever it's needed for you guys. We're able to, you know, uh, use
Yeah,
some of
and
that
they
lost
did that
energy.
too. I think, in previous few months, they've been doing that whenever they've been asked, and no one's been complaining, and the grid's been okay.
I mean, all the big boys do it. You know what I
Yep,
mean? I think Riot does it back
yep,
down in like Texas. A lot of people do, and it's in the power agreement. Like what I could say is that once agreements are in place, these PPAs are in place, everyone's happy. Everyone's happy, right?
yep,
As long as you don't over leverage, obviously you're lending and all of that, and then we get into like hyperinflated public valuations and etc. Excessive spending. Those are all different factors. But like when it comes down to the power business, to the energy business, everyone's happy. You
yeah.
got
So when you're
yeah.
talking about the excessive spending, what do you mean by that? What are some of these big companies wasting money on and screwing themselves over doing?
Well, do you want to talk about anyone specific?
No, you be my guest. But I mean, are you
I
talking
mean,
about like
listen.
shareholder dilution and just kind of like hoarding cash? Or I guess as sort of an aside to that, how do these companies even decide what to hold between, Bitcoin and ETH and like when to sell? Do they wait
Okay.
until the last moment when they absolutely have to, or are they holding more long term?
I mean, if we look at Bitcoin miners and only address the institutional miners, the way they work is obviously they have public money, right? So they're able to go out there and secure these big lots of, you know, miners that are mostly produced in Taiwan and China, right? And they secure those lots. They spend millions of dollars, and they bring those miners back to the US, obviously to plug them up. And then, a lot of them over leverage, man. Like spending too much on marketing, for example, or not buying the right equipment, or just, I don't know, getting into a problem that was unexpected, for example, during shipping, right? Times, uh, like you're building your
Yeah, it
mine
seems
and the
like they
power.
always buy like or they put it in these giant orders right in the like peak of the bull
Yep,
market and overpay just
yep.
absurdly, and it's like they just do the opposite of what they should be doing.
Because they don't have money when it's the bear market, right? And like when you if you talk about the builders of the Bitcoin network, they basically have no bear market. Like more and more BTC miners are joining the network. It's driving up the difficulty. Like it's always a bear market for these guys. It's always a bull market for these guys, especially in this space, Like yes, you have prices of Bitcoin miners going down like crazy, you know what I mean? And when I say crazy, it's like very significantly. But then again, at times where the market is down, they don't have those type of money, those type of, you know, spending sprees, and uh, they can't really develop. That's why you see these big miners, the smart ones that primarily mint Bitcoin. They don't have to ask themselves those questions. What tokens do we hold? Like, what do we do? It's pretty simple. We build a mine. We have a power contract at X price. Are we profitable? Yes. Are we not profitable? No. What are we mining? Bitcoin. Okay, what's the price of Bitcoin? It's XYZ. Okay, are our profit margins okay? Yes, they're good. We continue, right? And then if you talk about like the hyperinflation in terms of like what they're valued, it's crazy, man. Like the value that like during the last peak, the value of institutional Bitcoin mining, like public companies, it was crazy, man. Like
No,
it's
I rode the wave,
doesn't
so I
make doesn't make
know.
sense. Like these guys have to mine for like 100 years to be worth that much in terms of assets, right? Like for example, Core Scientific,
Hmm.
they primarily mint Bitcoin, right? And then they see the price of the token they're mining, which is Bitcoin, drop from like 70K to like 20K. It's like 70% loss in value. And then you pair that with like great competition among miners and then increased energy prices. There you go. You have like compressed profit margins, and it doesn't work. Are they able to survive? Yeah, yeah. We see a lot of them surviving. I mean, one example is Argo. I think it was last week that they sold their Helios site to Galaxy. Like for me, like the text says okay they do it to avoid bankruptcy because they're like they have a refinancing debt, but then again they sold for I think it was 350 or $360,000 per megawatt of operational racking space. Man, that's crazy. Like that's a that's a lot of money. So I don't see that as a failure. I see
Yeah.
that as just like any business. They're able to survive. Why would you say they failed? For me, they didn't. For me,
No.
they survived.
They didn't time their
Yeah,
exit perfectly, but they still exited, so that's not a
yeah, but
loss.
who would buy their site when it was worth 1.5 million per megawatt?
Yeah, exactly.
No one. And why would they even sell? They're like making tons of Bitcoin. You know what I mean? So it's all these companies that are being operated, it really depends on your style of operation, the team you hire for risk management. I think that's one thing. Like things companies Bitcoin mining companies grow way too fast. They scale intense like crazy. You know what I mean? They go from being small to mid-sized to huge pretty fast if you bring in the right investors, the right clients. And then along the way, you're so busy. You're so busy as a team, as a CEO, as a COO, as a CFO, that you don't even have the proper time to sit down and go like, hey, where's our risk management team? Who did we hire? Like, where's our compliancy team? Are we still compliant? Is everything good? Are we dealing with the right people? Like those meetings that busy people skip sometimes, that sounds like it's not important. They're pretty important, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think as long as the community of Bitcoin miners is able to, especially in North America, support each other, that means stop frauding each other, right?
Yep.
Stop selling
The
each
whole
other,
the whole industry
stop
needs to
stop
hear that.
selling, sorry for my language, stop selling shitty machines to each other. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Be straightforward, be honest. If I'm selling you a lot of 1,000 miners, like I could run a test, man. Like, or I did have those miners plugged before I unplugged them. Like when a broker or a buyer comes and asks, "Hey, can we have like a hash report?" Don't tell them, "Oh, well, maybe 30%." Like, don't say maybe. You have the right number. Be honest. Be straightforward. Like doing clean business. We already have a lot of trust in between us. It's not good to break that trust between everyone trying to make it in this industry.
Yep. It's always a
Yeah.
few bad apples that'll give everyone a bad
And
name, but forces everyone to be a little more careful than they wish they had to be.
sure, sure, but I mean, you could argue that it's like that in many industries, whether you're buying apples or mining, it's
Yeah.
the same thing.
Few
But
more of them in crypto
I
probably
just
than
think
most
like
industries.
exactly, but I really think that we in particular need to be good homies, everyone together, you know what I mean? There should be no bad blood. Like there's enough money out there. Like look at our market value and look at the greater banking industry. There's so much work to be done. We're still such in an early phase. And I think like if you're not going to be able to devote 100% of your time to the business, you shouldn't. You just don't do it. Don't be half into mining. Like don't do that. Just buy the coin. Buy the coin and wait. store it securely, and just wait. You know, like Bitcoin mining is made for tough people
So
that love Bitcoin.
would you ever suggest just an individual Bitcoin mine themselves? I know my uncle just got into it, set up a little, rig in his garage, or I think it was like a little back house.
Sure, sure, man. It gives you
And if so,
exposure
like,
to new
what's the easiest
technology.
way to do it? Or how would you do it?
Well, basically, like, yeah, if you look at like individual retail miners, there's so many of them, right? And there's so many of them, and the amount of Bitcoin they mine or how many rigs they have, it's kind of an in the unknown, right? All of these big miners, they're audited. So basically, we know how many miners they have, how much electricity they use, how much how many tokens, how many coins they produce per month, per week. But then you have all these other retail miners. I don't know if somebody has 1,000, thousand S19 mine down in I don't know, I'll take my own country of birth, for example, in Armenia. No one asked them. So there's a lot of them out there. And if you're gonna do it at the individual personal level, yeah, man, do it. Why not? It's good because you have a head start on understanding this revolutionary technology, right? Get your hands dirty a little, learn how to make transactions, how to set up a wallet, see how a transaction is processed, right? Hell, I don't know. Go on ChatGPT, ask them to help you set up a Bitcoin node. I'm sure he knows how to do that.
There you
Like, you know
go.
what I mean? You, yeah, like if I find it actually super cool that people do that. And I'll bring up an example of how I see the industry growing is um, we also were operating actually they're still operating, Decentral Technologies. If anybody needs repairs, these guys operate out of Quebec. Super smart dudes. Um, they had some big clients, but then the few months that I spent over there working with them, I saw a lot of retail customers coming in and out. Random, dude. Like, don't judge a book by its cover, but
Yeah.
there is no chance you see this guy in the street and you're like, oh, he's a Bitcoin miner. And it ranged from like 16-year-old kids to like 68-year-old people. Like, you know what I
Wow.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. If how I suggest people do it, look, there's a lot of resources out there. There's YouTube that has a bunch of cool people on there. One of the guys I like is Bits Be Trippin'. I like him. He's cool, he's able to vulgarize the information. Sergio and I were following him. It's been a long time. Then again, you have Reddit as a resource. You have so many different resources. You're able, now you have these guys that compare every different type of miner. Like, I wouldn't even be surprised if you called your regular household electrician and told them, "Hey, can you come and switch up my switch gear? I need to handle X amount of wattage for my Bitcoin miner." He'll
Yeah.
know what you're talking about. He'll
Wow,
know.
that's awesome.
He'll be like, "Oh yeah, some guys, contacted me to do a quick job for them." There's just so much out there. And one thing that we still don't realize because all of us are like busy with our lives and, you know, relatively making okay money, and each one has his own career. Then you go into Paraguay. Funny story. Like we're out there looking at different lands and abandoned warehouses and stuff to build a mine in. We're driving around and one of the electricians for the town, he goes like, "Hey, I have this friend who mines, and he might have some extra racking space." Okay, let's go. Let's go see what he's talking about. And like, obviously, you're in a foreign country. You're not talking about the scale of your operation. You're trying to keep it low key. Whatever. We're
Yeah.
we're going around. So we go into this small village. Okay, like really, there's no asphalt on the streets. Like it's really village. Latin America in Paraguay. It's like rainy, tropical place. Get into the guy's house. He has like this big, dirty old abandoned den. And then he has like these two chicken, how do you call it? Chicken dens? Is that what you call it, right?
Like chicken coop, maybe?
Like, yeah, a chicken coop, basically. Okay? Dude, and he had Bitcoin miners installed there. Okay, he had like I have videos of this on my phone. I'll show you the next time I see you. It's like they have like 10, 20, 15, and they're making like what, $60 a day, $100 a day.
Yeah.
The guy's living, you know what I mean? But he's like, is his electricity legit? I don't know, probably stolen if you ask me. But like that's none of my business, right? But what I'm trying to say is it's cool to see all these retail people, get into it because ultimately uh, we're like securing the network, like the community, the love and the passion for the project. It grows on you. And regardless of the financial incentives, people work together to secure this network. Like proof of work is actually like insanely nice. It's crazy. You work, man. You work and you get a token for it, a token of Bitcoin's appreciation. You know what I mean?
I love that. That was
Yeah,
beautifully put.
yeah. And
Wow.
you're like preventing fraud. Uh, you know, you're adding new blocks to this crazy ass secure blockchain, and like you're distributing the new Bitcoin more and more fairly because more miners are coming on. Obviously, yeah, it's not fairly distributed per se because they have like these big boys that are mining, but everyone has a fair chance to participate. Now, is that really true? I don't know. There's this thing I like to use. Like, have you ever heard about the Compass mining? I think it's called North American Bitcoin Mining Index.
No.
It's like a document that talks about like current energy mixes in the area, like what players exist, the capital structures. They kind of give their insight on the future of mining in the US, Canada, um, and right now, like they say that North American, and I agree, North American miners, we stand in a position like to fill like a big gap, like, and we have mature capital and energy markets, so it's happening right now. Mining is becoming more and more popular, and these public miners, through obviously internet services, they're able to provide retail miners with the chance of having some type of space on the rack that they own. You know what I mean? And it's a turnkey solution. You don't need to break your head. I mean, if you're cool and want to get your hands dirty, you set something up in your garage like your uncle. But if you're a bit more lazy and you just want to like, throw a couple cents to some crazy new idea, yeah, why not do it?
Yep.
And a lot of people are.
Yeah, I encourage everyone to get their hands dirty, and if not, just go for it and at least get a taste of it, so you can be a part of it because it's exciting once you get in. My uncle for sure is testament to that.
Oh
So you
yeah, is
talked
he
a little
happy?
bit. What's that? Oh yeah, he
Is he
he's
happy with it?
he knows more about DeFi than I do now, so I ask him
Oh
for
shit.
advice. Uh, I was wondering, as far as like advice that you look for, like who do you look to in the industry to learn from? Who do you follow on Twitter, or who do whose Medium articles you're reading? What's your information stream look like?
So depends on what. Staying up to date with the markets. First of all, I don't use Twitter, surprisingly. I've never had a Twitter. I obviously see some tweets like
I
when I'm
respect it.
Googling things, but I mean, I should maybe. Should I?
Honestly, probably. I mean, I didn't do it for a long time. I only got it a few years ago, and then I got banned because we did an episode of this podcast about like QAnon like a year before. And then in that most recent Twitter drop, like Adam Schiff like sent that email like ban all the people talking about QAnon, and like a week later our account got banned for like 2 years during the whole bull market, which sucked because we could have been like killing it. And we just got it
Oh,
back. So now I'm back and I do enjoy it. Elon's
that's
Twitter is pretty fun.
yeah, yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, basically, I'll probably sign up to Twitter this week. I'll do it. I think I need it.
There you go.
Um, I don't have many resources on Twitter, so I was personally lucky enough to, go to these conferences, obviously through the company, and meet a lot of people. and they're fully devoted. And it's like these professionals from different industries that are 100% devoted to Bitcoin and to Bitcoin mining. So I have some guys from the oil and gas industry, that I follow on LinkedIn, and they keep you up to date, what's happening in the market, um, who's selling their coins, who's filing for bankruptcy, why are the prices going up? Um, I mean, I could name a few names for your listeners if they want to go and follow those people on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Let me
definitely.
just let me just pull it up real quick. But yeah, they're like, man, they are so into Bitcoin. Like, it's crazy. So, like, here, one of my good buddies, uh, Mario Andres Gutierrez, he works for Luxor. He's a oil and gas energy dude. So he's super active. He'll always post about uh, the grid and um, what's happening in the market, which miners are doing good, which are not. Then there's Mr. Curtis Harris from Compass Mining. He's always advocating, teaching, vulgarizing the information. Um, who else? Who else? It'll come up. A few names will
Yeah,
come up.
no worries. No,
But
but that's
yeah,
great.
a lot of. I think like if you're just if you want to do something, you go out there and try to find the information. You're gonna find information. You know what I mean? It's just out there. Uh,
Yep. And
you
if you're
just have
listening
to
to this,
search.
you're already well on your way. So,
You just also, and you just. I hope so actually. And you just have to search for the right hashtags, man. It's not hard. Learn to search. That's it.
yeah, yeah, you're good at LinkedIn. I gotta get better at LinkedIn. It seems pretty useful. That's how you found me, I think. So,
Yep. It's the
yeah.
only thing I use really, for real. Like I like. Obviously, I use Instagram sometimes to waste time
Yeah.
and to keep up with the useless things my friends are doing in their daily lives. But whatever, that's cool. It's part of social media. Whatever.
Yeah,
I like
exactly.
LinkedIn. I like LinkedIn. Though. LinkedIn is nice.
If you're staying off TikTok, at least you're doing better than most people.
I am, bro. I can't do it, bro. Oh
Okay,
yes,
me
and
neither.
also there's also Stefan Barbour.
Okay,
Um, yeah, he's someone cool to follow. Someone cool to follow. Yeah, those
perfect.
few names, I think that's good.
Yeah, no, I think that's plenty. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. And I just wanted to ask if you have any, parting wisdom or anything you wanted to shout out, or if you just wanted to maybe talk about where you see the industry going, go for it.
Sure. Actually, um, if you give me 1 second, I'm gonna try to pull something up because I want to get the name right. I think everyone in your chat, in your listening to your podcast needs to check this out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give me 1 second. So basically, I want to just get back to the fact of people talking about how energy intensive Bitcoin is and all these studies that were out there that I don't think, you know, are that valid. Okay, here it is. So there's this company called Value Chain Publication. Have you ever heard about them? Value
No,
Chain?
I haven't.
So they recently wrote like a peer review white paper and they found that Bitcoin's blockchain uses almost half the annual energy of previous estimates. So basically, they show that Bitcoin is 56 times more energy efficient than the current banking system. And why? Because and like I'm just like reading through quick because I had it open last night. I was reading it.
Yeah.
Like they talk about like the power use that comes from the University of Cambridge research. They peg Bitcoin's annual power drain at more than 121 terawatt hour. Um, and if I could put that in words, like a single terawatt can power 10 billion 100-watt bulbs, okay, light bulbs. So they take that and they compare it and um, give me 1 second. yeah, so what they're saying is like most of the times in their research papers, they compare like Bitcoin mining to uh, like they cherry pick on debit card use most of the time, which is like a small element of traditional banking. And it's like they compare it in an isolated way against Bitcoin's entire ecosystem, but like that's not fair to do. Like
Hmm.
you have to think about
There are light bulbs on at the Chase office building too, you know?
exactly, right? And they're like they talk about they don't talk about, sorry, they don't cover like banknotes, cash
Yeah,
management and
driving to the
ATMs.
office,
Exactly, like card
flying to
payment.
Paris for Davos, or find a
Point,
Switzerland, I mean.
like point of sales payments, like the actual banking, interbanking, like just so many things. And with this study, uh, here it is. That was shocking. Yeah, so they say it here that basically the traditional banking system was determined to have an annual energy use profile of 4,981 terawatt hour compared to Bitcoin's 89 terawatt hour. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
that's
like,
huge.
eh, okay, you're gonna tell me, okay, but like you have so many different publications against Bitcoin, and then you have this one. Yeah, this one's like a peer review. You could go and like do your own research, read about it. I think it's pretty interesting. It's value chain.
Yeah,
So yeah,
no, and I think even if you just think about it logically, just think about every bank branch you've ever seen, all the people that go to work every day, all the energy it takes to keep these things moving, and all of the, all the resources and supplies they need. It's ridiculous when you think that the network does the same thing without a single person having to go into work, without, an office building, without a CEO who needs to fly around all day. So I think, it's pretty crazy that they've tried to say that that's not the case. And they always say Bitcoin will take up, 5% of the world's energy by 2020, and it never happens. So,
I wish that
yeah,
happens.
it'd
If
be really
only that were
secure.
to happen. It'd be really, really secure. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was super informative. I think we did a deeper dive on this stuff than we've done before, and I think it's really great that we can continue to educate people about this stuff, even though it's been around forever. People are just getting more and more comfortable with it and understanding it at a level that they haven't before, and that's in large part thanks to people like you, educating them when you have time.
Hey man, you were asking the right questions, and I'm sorry, like when I wasn't really able to give detailed information about how the miners are able to secure the grid, but I think I gave some information, but going down to the details, it's a bit more complicated, and there's no shame in saying it's above my
No,
knowledge to at certain
nothing wrong
moments. You
with
know what I mean?
nothing wrong with having those gaps. Everyone's got them, and we just gotta learn. So I feel like you'll be doing some research tonight. I know you.
I will.
All right, well,
So
we'll have
that's
you
pretty
back
much
on
it.
soon. Thank you so
Cool,
much.
Mark. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.